Like it? So, you guys haven't seen on social media, I got the wheels refinished over at AR Motorworks. Just got the wheels back onto the car today. And dude, the color pops right now with the sun. You still like the gold more?
I like the gold. I'm more of a gold guy.
He likes the gold.
On this blue, it looks amazing. We'll see how it looks like with the sun actually being directly on it.
Yeah, then you'll really see the brush. Like right now you can't really see the brush, but when the sun actually hits it, you can really see it. I get the last blue center caps in North America. Yeah, they're on back order right now. I got the last set available. Welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to be vlogging and just talking about the things going around the shop. We are doing a high pressure fuel pump on this bad boy, and then we are doing a exhaust on this, plus oil change, and then we are doing a flex fuel kit. We're having some complications because this kit is actually meant to be installed on a OEM fuel system. Luckily he has the OEM fuel line here, which we were able to retain and use, but the downside was that he has a full performance upgraded high pressure fuel pump which uses a different fuel line up top. So we actually just had to make a new fuel line that goes from here, we had a T here, add it to there, go all the way to the top where the old ethanol sensor used to go to. And how many hours has it been?
Probably took me, the measuring part wasn't that hard. It's pretty straightforward. It was moreover still putting the lines together.
Well, I told you, assembling the line is going to be a bitch.
Yeah, so it took me about an hour and a half to put the lines together. Cutting out the old lines out of the old rubber line, doing new rubber fuel lines, and then fitting it all together. Because it's a very tight fit, and usually with these compression style fittings on rubber fuel lines, they have a specific tool for it that makes it easier. But if you don't have that tool, you're pretty much going to spend hours and minutes twisting with silicone lubricant and just trying to force it together as much as you can.
Yes, so we were using some fuel lines that we currently had here that are ethanol rated. Obviously we have to do ethanol rated because this is going to be running ethanol. I have some extra fuel lines here that we use as well, but the diameter was different, so I had to use this stronger fuel line that is a nightmare to assemble. So today's vlog will show you guys essentially how to install a flex fuel kit onto your S55 chassis, so M2 comp, or actually pretty much anything that is BMW with this flex fuel kit.
Yeah.
This is the new flex fuel kit that can be utilized with boot mode for flex fuel and map switching. So I'm sure that a lot of you guys are going to start installing this. Now this is going to be the inline filter here. This is a relieve valve in the case of you need to release or remove any fuel. You can also actually put an adapter onto here and find out the fuel pressure too. So I believe, based off of what I'm seeing from here, this could be a fuel regulator as well. So this should be adjustable to increase fuel pressure if necessary. This is the ethanol sensor. To mount this on, there's actually just going to be two bolts, one here, mounts directly to your chassis. Then you run the B fuel line into your original fuel line here. Then the A does. And then the B goes up to the top. In this case, we had to make this fuel line. Otherwise, this would just go to your original fuel line that actually connects to here to your high pressure fuel pump. And then once we're done down here, we'll show you guys how to wire it all up. Henry's actually like one of my kids. So I actually make dinner and prep it for the next day. And then a good amount of time I end up making extra and feeding Henry. Yes. And today's one of those days. Unappreciative.
Unappreciative?
Yeah, he's so unappreciative. I make him all this food, I get him coffee and all this stuff, and then he starts yelling at me out of nowhere. Literally just yells at me like, dude, what? Go finish up your jug. Oh, I have to finish it up for you. No. It's crazy. Always telling me I gotta finish up his jobs for him. And then today I help him wire up an exhaust and he's like, Oh, you're not gonna finish it up? I have to do it for you. I have to do everything for you. I'll finish up your work for you, huh?
No, that's false.
Doing?
I am readjusting spark plug gap and then swapping coils.
Can you tell everybody what they need to do as they install one-step coder or two-step coder plugs?
One step coder, two step coder plugs. Basically gap to 0.022, and then if it's copper, you need to torque it down to 22 foot-pounds. In his case, these are actually like barely, I'd say about 16, 17 maybe foot-pounds. Actually shot right off.
You see this all the time of people gapping their spark plugs. And they always buy those, you know, AutoZone.
Yeah, he said he used the little coin.
Yeah, see,
and it doesn't work well.
Yeah, so if you guys buy the gapping tool from AutoZone, please don't use that. It's like that little wheel, that coin looking one. Don't use that. Please invest your money into a feeler gauge. This is actually used for valve adjustments on older cars, but this is very good. So this is going to allow you to get the correct tolerance you need. 0.022 for most N54, N55s, and S55s, as well as N20 and N26. If you are going with E85 or not, going E85, you know, obviously 0.018. In this case, it's going to be 0.022. And make sure you guys torque them, please. We've seen this too many times. People install spark plugs and they don't gap them properly. They just do it by hand. And with the vibration of the engine plus heat, it's going to expand it and eventually back out. In this case, it wasn't torqued and it started backing out. So it had a high pressure fuel pump failure, but at the same time, it was misfiring. We found out that it was the cylinder 6 that was misfiring. So we pulled out the spark plug on cylinder 6 and it was loose. And to do that, we have to remove all this crap just to get to access this here. And what we did now is we re-gapped that spark plug and then we moved the coils from 6 to 4. That's how we're going to be able to determine if it's a coil that's bad. You just move the coils from one cylinder to another and then you see if it follows that. In this case, we just left the spark plug there. And if it consistently stays on 6, then we will change the spark plugs from 6 to maybe 1 and see if it follows. If it doesn't follow, then it'll be potentially an injector. So we'll run ISTA to test that afterwards for fuel pressure. And first things first is we just try this out first because this is pretty easy just to do. It's not that hard. So just try this if you guys are at home and you guys don't have the equipment or ISTA to do it. This is one of the easiest ways to test and determine what is causing the misfire. See, now that I'm feeding my child, you can see how happy he is. You know, like earlier when he was doing the exhaust, he was looking like a little pouty face, about to cry, you know. I call him Little Patty because, you know, the pouty face. Now I'm feeding him, I'm feeding him hummus with pretzel crackers, and I gave him chicken and rice. And look at him, see, look how happy he is. He's the happiest child ever. It's like when a kid cries about getting toys and you take him to Disneyland instead. So Adam, tell us what's going on with this.
We fixed the gap to 0.022 cylinder 6, torqued it down to 22 foot-pounds. Still misfiring pretty bad. We also swapped the ignition coil from cylinder 4 to 6 and 6 to 4 to see if the coil is the issue. Misfire counted upwards of like 40 misfires in cylinder 6. None of the rest were misfiring. So I think personally it's injector, but one more thing we're going to try before we come to that conclusion is swap the spark plugs from cylinder 4 to cylinder 6. And that way we know if the misfire follows to cylinder 4, it's a spark plug issue. If it stays in cylinder 6, we know it's an injector.
Yeah, so we're just eliminating the possibilities and at the same time showing you guys how you guys can test this out at home and without any, you know, proper equipment to help easy out the process. So we're just gonna swap stuff around and see if it follows. If it still consistently stays on 6, then the last thing it will be is going to be the injectors. But before we assume it's going to be the injectors, for us, that is, as professionals, we don't want to just assume that. We are going to run ISTA, and then we are going to measure out the fuel pressure on that, and we'll determine if it is a leaking injector or a failing injector, because that can actually test the injectors. And then if it is, then we'll go ahead and replace the injector. Well, inform them first and let them know, and then replace it if necessary. But, you know, for you guys at home who don't have the proper software to be able to do this, you can just do this simple test at home, and it'll help you, you know, pinpoint the problem. Obviously, don't just swap out the injectors unless you are 100% certain. So we do these tests first, and then we do a compression test to verify that it is a good cylinder. So we would measure out compression on cylinder 6 as well as number 5 and number 4. Just one bank, and then we'll see the difference between all 3 cylinders. And if it's consistent within each other about 15% or so, we know it's good. If it isn't, then we're going to assume that it's probably a valve or a bad piston ring. If you're not getting any smoke out of the exhaust, it's potentially valves. But this helps you guys diagnose a problem from home. Alrighty, so now we have our scanner hooked up and we move the spark plugs around, and you can still see the misfire counter on number 6 still climbing up. So now we can go ahead and run this to determine if it is an injector, and if it is, we'll call the customer and let him know that he needs to replace it. It's actually a pretty common issue in N55s, huh?
Yeah, it's happened before. It's
Well,
honestly
N55s and N63 and S63 to use. Alrighty, so we are now wiring up the flex fuel module in this case. So you want to explain it to them?
So it goes into one of the DME connectors in order to send the ethanol sensor. So the way this system works, you see this is a Tronics ECA2 canvas system. This is connected to the sensor that we installed earlier that you guys saw on the bottom. This gives all the readouts to this. Then this has a signal that gets sent out and gets sent to the DME so that the tune can adapt to the E85 and different maps and things like that. So this connects to the canvas module like I showed you earlier, and then we pretty much have to tap these wires into certain pinouts inside of this wiring harness right here. So it's a canvas high, canvas low. If you guys are wondering which one is which, it's a little confusing at first, but the canvas wires will always be twisted together in these harnesses. So it's this blue and red and that solid red. Blue and red is canvas high, solid red is canvas low, and then the other power wire that you would need for constant power is this solid red wire here that's untwisted. So if you guys end up getting confused because they are the same color, just remember the canvas wires are always twisted together.
Yep. So it's pretty simple. You just gotta find out which harness it is. Let me show you guys which one it is.
It's actually the utmost DME connector, which looks like this, and it's the one that's farthest to the right over there.
Yeah, so that, or you can just look right here, move your hand real quick, find this harness that is right here against the side of the shock tower over here, and follow that, and that'll be the one that connects to the DME. That's going to be the one that we're tapping into. Cool. So this is pretty simple. It just hijacks the canvas signal to determine its signal and pretty much manipulate it for ethanol content. And then there's a power wire that is going to be tapped into another red wire that's in there as well. It's going to be the thicker red wire. Then you have a ground, which is here.
On the strut tower anywhere.
Yeah, well, I don't like to do on the strut tower because in the case of it is removed and stuff like that, we are going to be grounding this directly to the chassis. So we'll find a good spot for it and show you guys where we are going to tap it into. So we can even tap it into like anything that's bolted down directly to the chassis that's unpainted, or a available ground somewhere itself, maybe even extend it all the way to...
so we could bring it, we have a ground
right
here.
So we have a ground terminal here, so we might even extend it to all the way over here because we want the best ground possible to eliminate the possibility of it not grounding out correctly. You guys ground it out to one of these, people keep removing it, and eventually it's not going to be a good ground anymore. Or if they don't tighten enough, or whoever installs that crimp doesn't do a good job. So at least if you do it over there, you can have access to it and it doesn't get moved around, stuff like that. This wire is too short, so we're going to extend it from here, probably route it all the way through to there, and then just ground it out over there. And it'll be clean, simple, no wires showing, nothing protruding here as well. So yeah, we'll show you guys in a little bit. So we're actually doing a Mperformance electronic steering wheel on this. We'll go ahead and start pulling this one out and start wiring it up as well. So on this vehicle, the easiest way to install the steering wheel is by ripping the steering wheel off as hard as you can and then just slapping that thing on. Then just powering it up by, I don't know, plugging some wire somewhere, who knows what. So you actually just bought this brand new steering wheel. That's a electronic steering Alcantara. First things first, for removal of the steering wheel, you want to disconnect the battery, the negative terminal, to ensure that the airbag does not deploy on you. Then we will remove the airbag. There are two hidden slits on the side. You just got to feel it with your finger and apply pressure, and you'll feel a little lip on it right here. And then you can actually stick a like a flathead inside of here and push these tabs, which I'll show you guys in a little bit, and then push it to release the airbag. There's one on each side, and then once you get that off, there is going to be two terminal connectors, one for the airbag and one for the steering wheel controls. Unplug those two, and then the bolt that holds the steering wheel down is a 16 millimeter. It should be pretty tight. If you guys don't have electronic tools, just full lock the steering wheel to the left, and then when you crack it loose, you'll be pushing that direction and the steering wheel will hold itself, unless you guys have a steering lock on your vehicle as an option. Alrighty, once you get the airbag to this point, I'll show you guys where the areas is to push that out. You have 2 connected terminals on top. Use a flathead, and I'm gonna do one first as I hold the camera real quick, and just spread it apart like this. And thank you, I got a new camera guy. Pop those apart like so, and then lift, and then now we can actually lift this off of the airbag like so, and then that comes off, and now the airbag's off. So earlier I was explaining to you guys how to remove it. So over here on the side, we will stick it in through this little hole right here, and then on this end of it, you will see that it goes up here, and when we push against here, it's going to release this area for the airbag that's clipped on here, one on each side. So now we'll go ahead and remove these connectors, which is going to be one push clip here like this. Actually, I'll use my plug screwdriver so you can see. Push down against this right here, and that will release it in this tab here and inside here. And then on this one, use a pocket screwdriver or something small that's a flathead. Push it right here, and then pull that out, and I'll disconnect that. Now this is going to be held on with a 16mm. I have a impact gun that'll make life easier. Take that off. You cannot mess up the position on the steering wheel. There is a keyway here, but ideally you want to straighten up the wheel, so then you have an idea. When you remove this, make sure you do not spin the clock spring behind here. So go easy. If this gets spun and it gets unwounded, you would damage this clock spring and you'll have to replace it. We're going to separate this from here on the steering column, and this is held in with 4 T20s across, and then once we remove those 4s, we'll swap out the clock spring. But be mindful of spinning this, because you don't want to damage this. In the case if you go back to stock, we are going to replace the clock spring with the new one that is included with it. So when I remove this and separate these two, I use a plastic pry tool, wedge it inside of here and just lift it, and it's going to separate the two just like so. And then this has a tab over here. You want to just push this tab, focus right about there. Push that, and then you're going to push it down. I can't do this right now, but one on each side. Right there. Push those two down, and then this will come down. Once you have the steering column covers off, you have 4 bolts here, 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 and here. Remove that, and then behind here, there's going to be one connector right back here, and then you'll disconnect that connector. Actually, there's 2. Disconnect these 2, and then you'll be able to remove this completely and swap in the new one. So now we're going to remove the 4 T25s out of here. As I do it with one hand. Alrighty, so once we remove the clock spring, which has a tab up here and tab down here, we will separate from here. Just pull it out like so, and then place it aside. Make sure that you do not spin this, so somewhere safe. And then we're going to install the new one now. So now we have the steering wheel reinstalled back into the car. It's a reversal of that. We ran one wire across from here under here. As you can see, the wire is right here. Route it up, pull off this trim, run it down below here, down this area, run it to the steering column, and then there's a plug behind the clock spring, and then after that you just bolt everything down, basically the reverse of what you guys just saw. And then we're going to remove the cover down there. That has to be removed as well. There's 2 T25s holding it, or T20s, and then we pop off that cover, and then we're going to wire up to the canvas signal down there. It's pretty simple. I'll show you guys that in just a sec. Alrighty, so on this side there is a module. You will access the blue one on this side. The connector that you're looking for is a blue one, just like this. You will remove it. There are 2 tabs on the side, one here, one here. You'll apply pressure outwards, and I'll allow you to slide the connector terminals out of it. And then you will find on the back side, on the black connector, pin 1 and 2, which is going to be a blue with red, and then the one right next to it, which is solid red. You will depin it from here, and then you're going to take the original wires and you're going to connect it into the supplied connector here. And the way I do it is I match it up into here, make sure that slots in together, and the blue goes onto that same side onto connectors. So I'll go ahead and do it with this one. Out of here, you could use a pick or a screwdriver that fits inside of here, and apply pressure against it to release the tab that holds it in place, like so. Then once you have that out, you will now take this connector and slide it inside of the new supply terminal connector and clip it in. And then now you squeeze this together like so. Now the red one is going to go inside of the original terminal connector, like so. Now this jumps into here and connects into there, like that, and that's it. And then we will take the last two remaining wires, which is going to be the brown and green. We are going to use the supplied wire taps and wire tap it into these for the dome light down here. Brown goes to the brown goes to brown, and then green goes to the red. Alrighty, we didn't record much and we didn't record the final product of the installations of both cars, but we're done. They're both running good, both works. It was a lot of work because of the spool performance. As you can see, he's very tired. I'm pretty exhausted and we're all pretty exhausted, but that's it for the day. Hope you guys enjoy this vlog. Peace.